Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, Update 1 happened last week for Sunbreak, and along with some glorious monsters and a whole new addition to our endgame systems, we got some new armor, and that new armor has had quite notable effects on certain builds, those specific builds being elemental and status builds. So today I'm going to revisit a build that I made for base Sunbreak, the best elemental charge blade builds, and redo it entirely based around this new equipment in a way that just absolutely shreds through monsters, even in comparison to the previous builds. This time around, we are not using dereliction either, so if you're someone who hates having your health permanently drained, today is a day to be happy.
I'm not dying. I'm never dying.
Since that video, I have put a fair bit more time into playing Charge Blade and Sunbreak, and am more comfortable with its general loop, and I have since come to the understanding that Axe Hopper as a Silkbind is extremely powerful, boosting the damage of your SAED. As a result, a build where you can freely switch between switch skill scrolls is generally going to give you quite the large advantage over one where you can't, and even regardless of that, these builds will do quite a bit more damage than the previous ones, due to both the new skill Element Exploit on Silver Rathalos armor, which gives you elemental damage boost when hitting an elemental hit zone or 20 or higher, it will up the damage, and due to weapon augmenting as well. Specifically, while none of the weapons have changed, the ones that were previously best for their element still are, all of the ones that only had a 2-slot rampage slot can now have a 3-slot, allowing them to fit Elembane for an extra 20% elemental damage against weak hit zones. This is extremely important as elemental style Charge Blade's SAED deals purely elemental damage, no physical, no affinity calculated in, and no sharpness counting either, which means that it simply benefits from the maximum amount of element possible. And past that, we aim for skills that allow us to stay in the fight and use SAED more often. First up, let's talk about our switch skills as a whole. Counter Morph is a great choice as it simply boosts your SAED damage if you pop it off at the guard point. Condensed Element Slash fits our build more, as this isn't a spinning slash build. File Follow-Up Firing Pin is the ideal choice here, as when it does take effect it can extend the timer of your shield buff, which is just great. And then on your red scroll you want to have Counter Peak Performance. This is the counter that fills up your files all in one go when you pull it off, and can be comboed into SAED. On your blue scroll you want to have Axe Hopper. Axe Hopper sends you into the air and then lets you do an extra powerful SAED, and we'll go over why blue scroll is the stronger one a little bit later on in this video. In your final slot, it is mostly personal choice. I have Air Dash selected here, but I don't really use either one a whole lot, preferring to save my wire bugs for the other two skills already mentioned. When it comes to the weapons, if you saw my last Charge Blade video, you already know my recommendations. For Thunder, we have the Narwa Charge Blade. This one just has the highest elemental value of any Charge Blade, just in general, and now we can augment it to fit the Elembane decoration as well, which makes it even more ridiculous. For Dragon, we are using the Dragon Tree Charge Blade. The Valstrax one can reach similar numbers, but especially now that we have augmenting, this one pulls out just ahead, due to the 3-slot Rampage decoration being a default part of the weapon, so we can add even more element onto it. For Fire, we are using the Rakna-Kadaki Charge Blade, again having a superior element number, and now being able to have an upgraded Rampage slot as well. For Ice, we are using the Auroracanth Charge Blade. Again, it reaches the highest element and can fit this important Rampage deco. And then finally for Water, we are using the Vike Tree, because who doesn't like wielding a fish as a weapon? Oh my God. Also, it of course has the highest water element while also having elemental files. The important thing to remember for Charge Blade specifically is if you are doing a build based mainly around SAED, it doesn't just need a high element number, but it also needs to have elemental files, or else the rest of the build is just sort of pointless. Before moving on then, let's talk about your weapon augments. The Thunder, Fire, and Ice weapons need to be augmented into having an upgraded Rampage slot to fit the Elembane deco, which is a significant bonus for those. Then the final slot for them should be 1 rank of element augments. The Dragon and Water weapons already have level 3 Rampage slots, so for those just give them the old level 3 element boost along with a level 1 attack boost just to fill the slots, as none of the remaining options affect SAED damage itself. The talisman that we are using today with all of our builds is a 1 chain crit with a 3-slot and a 1-slot, which is a fairly low level talisman. Your armor augments are not required to make this build work at all, and so realistically, if you can manage to augment 1 chain crit onto one of your armor pieces, then you can use any talisman that you want, completely personal choice. Otherwise, if you have this talisman, armor augments are instead fully personal choice, just do what you want with them. Now let's dive into the armor itself. There will be 3 different armor sets across the 5 elements, with decorations changing a little bit as well due to weapon slot differences. So let's start off then with the Thunder set. This one uses the Narwa helmet, Silver Rathalos chest, Narwa arms, Geismagorm waist, and Ibushi legs. The decorations that you want to stick in here are a hard bolt jewel, 2 little bolt jewels, the quick switch plus jewel, 2 iron wall plus jewels, jewels, 2 magazine jewels, and a tenderizer jewel. Affinity doesn't affect the actual file explosions, but it does affect the weapon hits, so weakness exploit is still a good skill to have, just for how little it costs to be able to get. As for the full skill list then, for this one we have Thunder Attack 5, Guard 5, Fire Attack 3, Rapid Morph 3, Storm Soul 3, Chain Crit 3, Weakness Exploit 2, Load Shells 2, Thunder Alignment 2, Critical Element 1, Guard Up 1, Offensive Guard 1, Slugger 1, Defense Boost 1 as a bonus from my talisman, Part Breaker 1, Wind Alignment 1, and Element Exploit 1. The reason we are using Narwa and Ibushi armor here is Storm Soul, which at level 3 increases your thunder and dragon damage by 15%, a bonus that you can't really make up for anywhere else, especially in a build that focuses elemental damage above all else. The math for this set then is 310 raw and 78 thunder on the weapon itself with augments included. For raw, first we have 310 plus 15 for chain crit, which is 325, times 1.05 for 1 rank of offensive guard, which will be active more often than it isn't with Charge Blade, times 1.32 for white sharpness. Then we have 2 ranks of weakness exploit, which is 30% affinity, so 1.075 for affinity for a total effective raw of 484.2. As for our element, doing what specifically affects files first, we have the base weapon element of 78, plus 4 for thunder attack, plus 15 for chain crit, makes 97, times 1.2 for the Elembane decoration, times 1.2 for thunder attack, times 1.15 for Storm Soul, times 1.1 for element exploit, makes 176.7 on our file hits themselves, and then counting in affinity because we have 1 rank of crit element, which is a tiny little 1.5% boost, as well as sharpness for 15% boost at white sharpness, we have 206.2 effective element on our weapon hits themselves. As you can see from this, the raw of this set is a fair bit lower than it used to be, but the element is ridiculously higher, which again is our true goal with this type of set anyways, given what file damage is based on. The dragon set then uses the same armor pieces and the decorations are almost the same, exchanging the thunder jewels for the dragon equivalents, and due to the weapon having slots on it, we also get a second tenderizer jewel in there, and then we have 2 bonus 1-slot jewels to fill in. I highly recommend Spearbird's Call, as it is a single 1-slot jewel that can have a massive effect on your hunt as a whole, and the other one is free to do with as you please. The skills as a whole in the dragon build then are the exact same as the skills in the thunder build, but with dragon attack 5 instead of thunder attack 5, 3 ranks of weakness exploit instead of 2, and then also that rank of Spearbird's Call just for good measure. For the math of this one, the weapon itself, once augmented, has 335 attack and 64 dragon element. To deal with raw additives first, we wind up at 350, then with multipliers we reach a total effective raw of 539.7. Then for element with additives we reach 83, and then after multipliers we have 166.3 on our file hits specifically. Then with sharpness and affinity multiplied in, our effective element on weapon hits winds up at 196. Then we move on to the fire set, which gets a whole new set of armor made up of the gold Rathian helmet, the silver Rathalos chest piece, the Scorn Magnamalo gauntlets, the Teostra waist, and Malzeno legs. The decorations that we put in here are 2 blaze jewels, the quick switch plus jewel and 1 regular quick switch jewel, 2 iron wall plus jewels and 1 regular iron wall jewel, 1 shield jewel, the magazine plus jewel, and 2 tenderizer jewels. This leaves you with 1 free 3-slot in which I put offensive guard to boost the raw damage of our weapon hits. After this you still have 4 1-slots free. I recommend 3 cornerstone jewels for defiance, and then the last one again for Spearbird's Call. If you do this, the full skill list will be Fire Attack 5, Guard 5, Weakness Exploit 3, Rapid Morph 3, Defiance 3, Chain Crit 3, Load Shells 2, Blight Resistance 2, Teostra Blessing 2, which raises your fire attack damage by 10%, Status Trigger Level 2 is just a bonus from the helmet, Attack Boost 1, Crit Eye 1, Crit Element 1, Guard Up 1, Offensive Guard 1, Defense Boost 1 just as a bonus from my talisman, Counter Strike 1, Mail of Hellfire 1, which is the reason that you want to stay mostly in Blue Scroll. This skill at rank 1 boosts your element by 5% in exchange for negative 10 element resistance, and is the reason that we have Axe Hopper on our Blue Scroll to maximize elemental damage when using it. Redirection 1, Spearbird's Call, Foray 1, and Element Exploit 1 as well. The math for this one gets a few little extra bumps from the incidental bonus skills that we have, but the weapon itself with augment applied has 300 raw and 69 element.
Nice.
As well, it also has base natural affinity of positive 30%. With additives, the raw attack goes up to 318, and with multipliers as well, due to the high natural crit on the weapon, we reach 534.4 effective raw overall. For element with additives, we reach 88, then with multipliers, our file damage hits 161, and adding in sharpness and affinity, our overall element on weapon hits reaches 193. Next up, we have our ice build, which is one of the stronger ones overall, numerically, and it uses a different armor set once again, but got the same armor set that the last build will use as well. And this armor is the Gold Rathian helmet, the Silver Wrath chest, the Kushala gauntlets, the Scorned Magnamalo waist, and the Malzeno legs. The decorations that we have in here are 5 small frost jewels, a quick switch plus jewel, 2 iron wall plus jewels and 1 regular iron wall jewel, 1 shield jewel, 1 magazine plus jewel, 2 tenderizer jewels, and 3 cornerstone jewels. This leaves us with a full skill list of 5 ice attack, 5 guard, 3 weakness exploit, 3 fire attack, 3 defiance, 3 chain crit, 2 agitator, 2 load shells, 2 blight resistance, 2 Kushala blessing for a 10% boost to our ice and water element damage, 2 rapid morph, 2 status trigger, 1 attack boost, 1 critical element, 1 guard up, 1 defense boost, 1 mail of hellfire, 1 coalescence, which actually has a reasonably high uptime in things like afflicted quests just due to blood blight, and so actually will affect your element more often than it won't, 1 level of foray, and 1 level of element exploit. For the math of this one, I won't be counting agitator or coalescence due to their unreliable uptime, but keep in mind that both of these skills will actually boost your damage even further once active and will be active somewhat often. The weapon itself with augments applied has 320 raw attack and 74 ice attack. The raw attack with additives on reaches 338, and then with multipliers factor in, our full effective raw is 501.9. For element, our additives go up to 93, and then with multipliers, our file damage itself is 170.1, and then our full effective element on weapon hits goes up to 200.6. Then the final build today, the water build, as I said, uses the same armor as the last one, with slight changes to decorations based on weapon slots. Quite simply, we swap the frost jewels for stream jewels, adding 1 regular quick switch jewel as well, losing 2 cornerstone jewels, and then putting in Spearbird's Call for the value point. The total skill list for this one then winds up being exactly the same, but with all 3 ranks of rapid morph, the 1 rank of Spearbird's Call, and then losing 2 ranks of defiance. For the math, this one has 325 raw and 66 elements once augments are applied, and the raw with additives goes up to 343. Then with multipliers, our full effective raw is 509.4. For our elements with additives included, we get to 85, and with multipliers factor in, our file damage itself goes to 155.5. And for weapon hits, our full effective element is 183.3. And there you have it, an SAED Charge Blade build for each and every element, all of which have gotten even stronger than they already were in base Rise to become quite the fun builds to use. Now with Axe Hopper in mind, you can swap switch skill scrolls as necessary if you see an easy opportunity for the counter peak performance to fill your files, but definitely aim to use Axe Hopper whenever the opening presents itself. I hope you enjoyed this presentation of these builds, and I look forward to seeing you take them out for a spin yourself and realize just how fun it is to play Charge Blade this way, not to mention how easily it can actually kill things. Like if you like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.